Greetings, Spirit Island fans! Today I'm going to narrow my focus from the big picture down to one spirit. Let's talk about river surges in Sunlight. Before we begin, I want to point out that if you're looking for a fun, easy to digest primer on how to play some spirits, I still highly recommend Greater Than Games Spirit Spotlights. They are much better produced than my videos can be. For now, I'll be focusing on spirits that they haven't gotten to yet, as well as talking about lore in order to put my own spin on things. Now, if you don't care about the lore, or my analytics, and want to skip to our discuss basic strategies, go to this part of the video. On most of the Spirit Island, the rivers run high during the rainy season, as one would expect. There is one exception: the lingering remains of an ancient curse kept a high ridge shrouded in ice, and when the sun beats down, it feeds a single river with abundant meltwater. River surges in Sunlight is a spirit of rushing water, inundation, and bounty out of season. It gets along well with the Dahan, who form along its banks. They reap the benefits of good harvests, and tend to the health of the river in its drier times. Both gain. River Surges is the spirit of one of the largest rivers on the island. It isn't the only one, but it is the most effective. They seem to be a spirit that is very friendly to the Dahan, irrigating their agriculture. They are known for consistent flooding, though usually not to a deadly degree. It makes life easier for the Dahan, but they move their focus to make life harder for the invaders. This explains the push mechanics. But when they flood fast, they can claim lives, sometimes in small degrees, sometimes by huge margins. Their primary elements are sun and water, needing both to accomplish its one innate power. This would indicate that River Surges is all about giving life, and doing it through the medium of water. However, it needs a bit of rock to get its nastiest effect. Maybe signifying rivers flooding using rainwater from the mountains? I'm not sure about the rationale on this one. One of the funny things about River Surges is that its special rule, at least at the start of the game, kinda encourages players to spread presence in a river-like manner. Since any presence in wetlands count as a sacred site, players are encouraged to make a beeline for the wetlands. This usually ends up with snaking pathways to the boards made by your tokens. To my knowledge, this is one of the few spirits that ends up with a specific presence spreading pattern. But now, let's steer away from lore and into the mechanics. River Surges in Sunlight is what I consider the ideal learning spirit. They don't have crazy special rules, they are slightly above the power curve without being too insane, they are fairly active, and they have a mix of offense and support mechanics. When you play River Surges, you will be spending most of your time shoving invaders around. Push mechanics are this spirit's bread and butter. Their innate power will start with just shoving one explorer or town, making it simple to prevent ravages or preventing builds. It does require a sacred site, but since there are 2 wetlands on each board, and River's special ability is that their presence in wetlands count as sacred sites, it's pretty easy to get a good hotspot for pushing. Even better, Wash Away doesn't need a sacred site to do its 3 pushes, so you can use that for its extra shoving if a spot is just out of reach of the wetlands. Another early game move is to use flash floods to prevent builds by killing explorers, or clearing off coastal towns. If you have another method of dealing damage, you may even be able to take out the coastal cities early. One fun strategy I like to use is to combine Wildfire's Flame's Fury with River's Flash Floods to kill the coastal cities in the fast phase. The 2 other cards in River's starting hands are Boon of Vigor and River's Bounty. Both of these will have lots of importance when I get to the starting turns. Boon of Vigor will be a wonderful support for spirits that struggle with energy gain, high lightning, but will also do well in supplying River with energy. River's Bounty is also useful for supplying energy, but it does even more than that. Having the ability to move Dahan around can be very useful, especially for defensive spirits. Granted, River is not really defensive, at least not in the way in which having Dahan around helps. But River's Bounty also provides one of the few methods of gaining new Dahan pegs. Especially without event cards, it is unusual to increase Dahan population. In the core game, it's only possible through this and Call of the Dahan Ways. So this would be valuable for gathering a strong Dahan force, especially if you or other spirits can defend and move Dahan around. The only issue with this card is that it's a range 0, meaning you can't really use this offensively unless you are in a spot about to be ravaged. Thankfully, River's speedy presence gain is useful for this, once you have gathered up enough wetlands that you don't need to dash for them. But another thing that makes River an excellent starter spirit is that they can activate the 3rd threshold without needing any new cards. So while you can't guarantee that you can hit the top innates for most spirits, this one you can start planning for right from the beginning. Granted, this does involve getting 4 card plays, but that can be arranged without too much issue. Now for good starting turns. While you do have the freedom to play as you like in Spirit Island, each spirit have ways to optimize at least their first few turns. With River, because you have 2 zero-cost cards that give you energy, you don't need to focus on your energy track immediately, unless you want to get major powers quickly. Your first turn would be useful to drop presents and make your way towards those wetlands for easy sacred sites. You can use the option to drop 2 presents in 1 growth to fast track your track farming. What's more, if you spend your first 2 turns emptying out your bottom track, you can get to the free reclaim over there. Having the ability to reclaim 1 card per round, regardless of growth option, can hugely benefit your growing ability further in. And with the 2 energy gain cards, you will still be able to play cards and do stuff in those 2 turns. Play both of those on turn 1 and you will end up with 4 energy by the time you play cards on turn 2, and you can still shove an invader to prevent a build or a ravage. Once you get to this point, further turns are up to your best judgment. And you don't have to follow this setup to the letter. Heck, even I don't do it all the time because I like getting power cards early. This is just a very efficient setup. You will likely want that 4th card play at some point, so you can hit the final threshold for your innate power, especially since that one is kinda bonkers. River's innate, Massive Flooding, is both easy to reach and has benefits for pretty much the whole game. Shoving invaders out of build and ravage zones can make life significantly easier for you. But if you get to that 3rd threshold, then you are dealing 2 damage to every invader in 1 land, essentially allowing you to clear land of all invaders except for cities. And since River is all about pushing, you can even set up a kill zone, pushing all manner of invaders to 1 spot and then wash them away, which is also a good strategy when in combination with one of the island's more violent spirits. Line them up and knock them down. As for good power cards to grab, obviously go for cards with sun, water, and or earth elements to get the most of your innate power. I do find that some spirits are just really well suited to having certain major powers. For River, I enjoy getting them Accelerated Rot and Cleansing Flood. Rot is good for damage, but if you can hit the threshold, of which the only element you need to work on is for the plant element, in order to get a powerful attack and clearing a blight. Cleansing Flood is also great for River. It requires presence in wetlands, but you will be gunning for those anyways. It does damage and clears blight, but since River loves water, they will have no problem hitting those thresholds, and then you will have a wonderful big smash. All you need is 4 card plays. It's good stuff. Alright, I hope you have enjoyed this video, as well as the videos that I've done earlier this month. I will return to Sentinels of the Multiverse now, but I will return to Spirit Island every now and then because I really like this game. So, until then, take care, friends. I am totally prepared. Push mechanics are this spreads. River's innate, Massive. River's innate, I want to say Massive again.